Coach Gibney is our guest on the Rant Scope, and Barry Bonds is the topic of bonus and bogus. All that plus Scott with Rant Down the Line on this edition of the Rant.
Jeremy, man, wipe off them tears, bro.
Thank you for joining us here on the only sports show on TV 16. I'm your host, Jeremy Writt. Joining me today in the place of Josh Davidson is Scott Smith. And as usual, Mace Thomas and Brad Bellamy to my side. Now, this week we have, in addition to our regular smorgasbord of sports information, we have a new segment called the 2-Minute Warning. But first, we're going to start with bonus or bogus as always. This week's topic, Barry Bonds. Scott, is he a bonus or bogus?
Well, Jeremy, I think the answer is all too simple. He is a bonus by far. He broke a record, okay? Now, who cares if Mark McGwire broke it 2 or 3 years ago, whatever the deal is. He broke it this year. He's bringing people to games. He's making the game more entertaining. He's filling up the Pac Bell Park there in San Francisco. He's a player to watch. That's what it's all about. It's about bringing people to games. He's making headlines, and he's not beating his wife, so that's a positive on that note. One thing I want to add before I make my claim of a bonus for Barry Bonds. Barry Bonds, Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, and Scott Smith. What is the key element that runs through all those names? Not only is the first and last initial both the same, but they all know how to swing a stick. Mace, at you, baby.
Oh my! I guess that means it's my turn, but I don't know where to go with that one. First of all, I want to say that I think that Barry Bonds is a bogus. My reasoning for that is because where is his team now, and where will they be 2 or 3 weeks from now? At home, watching everybody else play in the playoffs. That's right, folks. If you don't take your team to the game, to the playoffs, it doesn't matter. Like The Rock says, it doesn't matter. But that's a bad impersonation of The Rock.
Ever.
Thanks, Brad.
That was
Appreciate it. But anyway, my point is, if the team's not going to the playoffs, it's pointless. It doesn't matter how many records you break. You have got to. You've got to go to the playoffs, and you've got to make an impact with your team. He did make an impact. He did break records, but his team isn't going to the dance, so might as well get undressed. What do you guys have to say?
We've got one bonus and one bogus. Stay with us. We'll find out how it ends up on the panel.
Imagine what it feels like to be a hero every day. You can make a difference in the Coast Guard. Jobs that matter. Imagine what it feels like.
Join the Coast Guard or the Coast Guard Reserve. Stop drugs. Save lives. Protect the environment. Call toll-free 1-877-NOW-USCG.
Coast Guard. Jobs that matter.
The big hitter, Scott Smith, gives Barry Bonds a bonus. Mace gives him bogus. Brad, what do you think?
Was Scott a big hitter or a switch hitter?
No.
Anyways, if anybody has a reason to think that Barry Bonds is a bogus this year, it would be myself. See, this summer I went out to San Francisco to see a game, not knowing that during day games that Barry Bonds does not play after a night game. Well, I find this ludicrous since everybody out there on the field, Jeff Kent, Andres Galarraga, all the big-name players out there except for Barry. Why did Barry not play? Well, he likes to sit out day games. So the year that Barry Bonds hit 73 home runs, went to a San Francisco Giants game, but did not see Barry play. So I do have a vendetta against Barry Bonds. It could go with a bogus, but I'm not, because Barry Bonds had the single greatest year ever by any baseball player, so he's a definite bonus. He almost took his team, carried his team to the playoffs this year, and they just fell a couple of games short. If they had a little bit better pitching, they would have definitely been there. But if you look at his stats this year, they're way above average. 328 compared to his career average of 292. Also, Last year, he had his biggest home run total of 49. This year, 73. That's a big difference. It's a very big difference. What about the walks? 177. Yeah, that's a lot of times going on base for free. Jeremy?
So that's a bonus from Brad. Brings the bonus count to 2, 1 bogus. But I'm going to have to add another bogus. Now, there are lots of reasons why I should like Barry Bonds or why I should think that he's a bonus. But, you know, one of those being he looks quite like my older brother. And, you know, that's my favorite relative. But we're talking about sports. And likeness to my kin means nothing to me. Now, Todd McFarlane brought Mark McGwire's 70th home run for over $3 million back in 1999. He hit it in 98, but McFarlane bought it in 99. And I like the fact that Bonds got McGwire out of the record book because, you know, I do discriminate against big redheads. Barry Bonds is a 10-time All-Star, 3-time MVP, and he's probably going to get his 4th MVP, which would be a record. The way he swung those 34 inches of Maplewood this year are great. It's, like Brad said, the single best offensive season in a long time, if not ever. Right up there with Babe Ruth's season in 1923, well before I was ever even a thought. But the fact of the matter remains, as May said, he did not get his team to the postseason. And they don't play baseball for records. They don't play for individual accolades. They play for rings. They play for pennants. He couldn't even get his team into the postseason, let alone win the World Series. Now, if you want to say you're a bonus, then you need to take that team on your back and walk them all the way into October. Now, he's a distant relative of Reggie Jackson, who is Mr. October, but he doesn't have that. He doesn't have those credentials thus far. He's choked in the playoffs. This year, he couldn't even get his team to the playoffs, despite the .898 or .896 slugging percentage, despite being walked all the time, despite single-handedly getting his team to the point that they got. If you don't have those leadership skills, if you can't carry your team into the playoffs, then you're no better than, Allen Iverson winning the scoring title and then getting thrashed in the playoffs by the Lakers. He gets a bogus for me.
Oh, my
But,
goodness.
Jeremy, but if you look at Bonds' numbers, if you watch the last 2 weeks of the season when every team was trying to walk Barry and he would get 2 or 3 walks a game, he still was able to get singles, get on base, and score runs. You know, he produced as much as he possibly could for that team, going 1 for 2 with 3 walks. He was getting on base like crazy the last 2 weeks of the season. So to say that he's a bogus because he could not get his team to the playoffs, that's like saying Tony Gwynn wasn't a great player because he never won a ring.
We're not talking about whether or not he's a great player. I mean, I'll give it to you. After Bonds got number 69, he saw 12 strikes in 19 at-bats, and that includes 10 walks. And he was twice hit by the pitch. But you're only as good as your team, and he didn't get his team to the postseason. Mark McGwire, when he had the record, his team wasn't in the postseason. Now, Barry's achievement was a little bit harder because he did it in the midst of a playoff race, but he didn't get his team into the playoffs. If he's a leader, if he's a great, then he would get his team to the playoffs. And you're asking me whether I think that's a bonus or bogus? I think, the record is nice, but it doesn't amount to about diddly squat if you can't get to the playoffs.
Well, how about this, Jeremy? You said that he didn't get his team to the playoffs. In baseball, it's a team thing. It's a team game. One person can't bring your whole team to the playoffs. It has to be something that you struggle through as a team, and you win it as a team, and you go there together. It's a team sport. Barry Bonds didn't have to carry his team to the playoffs in order to be great or in order to win a bonus. He's a great player because his individual effort outlasted anybody else in Major League Baseball, and it just so happens that his own team didn't make it because maybe he lacks the components of team unity that they need to make to the playoffs. But he himself is a definite bonus. I
definitely agree with that.
He went as far as he possibly could on his own. You couldn't ask a guy to do much more. I mean, he produced, he put the numbers down, he did what he needed to do. It's not his fault entirely that the team didn't make it. It's a team sport, Jeremy.
But when we're speaking of a player here, we're talking about Barry Bonds as a superstar. I mean, his name is all in the news and the media, and we're talking about a great player, a player who should be able to carry a team on his back and take them to the playoffs, and he didn't do that. When you talk about baseball and you talk about sports and all the different elements of sports, you have to consider what your goal is. The goal is to win championships. The goal is to win rings. The Buffalo Bills were great 4 years in a row, but they never won anything, so they're the laughing stock of history. I mean, second place is for the first loser. sorry, folks, I don't like losing. I don't like not being a contender in the playoffs. I think Barry Bonds is awesome. His record-breaking ability was just wonderful this year. But if his team's not going to the big dance, there's just no point.
Mace, you know how many errors Barry Bonds had this year?
How many?
He had 6 errors.
Hit me with the stats.
All right. Now, offense is one game, defense is another game. If the pitching's not there for Barry Bonds, I mean, Barry Bonds can put up 10 runs a game, but if the pitchers give up 11, then how's that Barry's fault?
I understand, but look at Jordan. I mean, when you talk about Michael Jordan and all the things that he did, there were a lot of times that great players on his team were, stepping up big time, and they were going and playing great games, but at sometimes Jordan would have to carry everything on his back. I mean, he would have to do it all. And I think Barry Bonds, if with a little bit more stepping up and playing tougher, I think he could have done that. I think his spirit would have, spread to everyone on the team, and maybe they would have started playing harder. And that didn't happen. He just broke a record. It was a great record, but
He broke several records.
Yeah, several records.
he broke several records, granted. But the fact of the matter is,
that happens every day, folks.
it doesn't
73 home
happen
runs,
every day.
you know, we all can hit 73 home runs.
You're ganging
The
up on
fact
me.
of the matter is, he didn't have to carry that team by himself. Jeff Kent is a former MVP.
Yes, all-star.
But their offensive numbers,
He hits
Jeremy.
right behind
Give him
Barry
pitching.
Bonds.
Give him pitching.
When
His
Bonds
team.
started getting walked all the time, Jeff Kent stepped up a little bit. So it's not the fact that he had to carry the whole team on his back. And you're talking about all these players like Jordan and things of that nature. Jordan wasn't established as a legend until he got a ring. Patrick Ewing, Charles Barkley, all these players in the NBA who played for the longest and didn't get rings, they're great players, but are they great leaders? Do they deserve a bonus from me?
Basketball.
And you're asking my opinion, and unless you have ring, unless you have the jewelry, unless you have the bling, as they want to call it, you're not getting a bonus from me. These are team sports.
But basketball and football and even hockey are completely different sports than baseball, because baseball is the only sport where if you're on defense, you can't score. If you're on offense, you score. If you're on defense, you can't. And so Barry Bonds can have he can have good fielding. He only made 6 errors. That's
He's
pretty
never
good
made
fielding.
more. He's never made more than 6
In his
errors
whole
in a season
career.
in his whole career. I'll give you that.
So, if he can't help their defense. He cannot help the pitching. He can't help the pitchers giving up 3 home runs a game. You know, I'm not saying they did, but I'm just saying Barry Bonds' offensive stats and even his defensive stats are remarkable. To say he's a bogus because his team did not get to the playoffs, and they only fell 2 games short, too. 2 games short.
$1 short, a day late, whatever you want to call it. We've exhausted this point. Please stay with us. We'll be back with the rest of the show after these messages.
Imagínate sentirlo, ser héroe cada día, harás la diferencia en el Coast Guard. Coast Guard, trabajos que valen. Imagínate sentirlo.
Únete al Coast Guard o a la reserva del Coast Guard. Para las drogas, salva vidas, protege el medio ambiente. Llama al 1877-NOW-USCG.
El Coast Guard, trabajos que valen.
And we're back here on The Rant, the only show that gives you sports reporting with personality. Now, if you're just joining us, you missed Bonus or Bogus, but don't fret. Next up is the Rant Scope, and the guest this week is Coach Keith Gibney, head coach of the Lady Bison's volleyball team. Welcome to this edition of the Rant Scope. I'm Jeremy Writt here with Coach Keith Gibney of the Lady Bison's volleyball team. Coach, you guys have been on a hot streak lately, 15 wins in a row before your tournament this past weekend. What's the secret behind the success of the team this year?
Well, that's kind of a tough question. It's kind of an unknown factor. A lot of it is just playing well at a very good level and very good team play, good chemistry, and hope we can maintain it. But it's really kind of an unknown, not one stated fact, just overall good play.
Now, this is your 3rd year coaching here at Harding.
Mm-hmm.
Have you done anything differently this year as opposed to the previous years?
I'd say basically it's the same. There's some areas of the game I've been stressing a little bit more. This year we're much more defense-oriented, and I think that's helped us win a lot of games. And the team is just very different than what I've had in the past two. Very new group, so hopefully that brings new things too. It's been a positive effect.
Well, there's been a rule change this year.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about that rule change and how it's affected the team?
Probably the biggest thing people would notice is the scoring. They used to be traditional scoring where you had to serve in order to score a point, and all of college volleyball went to the rally score. and they changed from the game to 15 to game to 30. Probably what it does is it just keeps the games a little bit closer, kind of a little bit more exciting. You pay for your mistakes, kind of evens the playing field a little bit, and most people think it's fan-friendly, kind of makes it more exciting. And it hasn't really changed what we do. You do have to be a little bit more consistent, and you can't be so aggressive when you're playing for a point every time.
Okay, and you said it's more fan-friendly. You guys play your games in the Rhodes Fieldhouse, where the basketball team usually plays with packed houses. That's not exactly the case with the volleyball team. How do you keep that from adversely affecting your players?
Well, I mean, anytime you're at home, you're happy to be there, and any fans we have are friendly, and that's a great facility for small college sports, whether it's basketball, volleyball, or whatever. And our fans who are there have been good. We've been happy with the numbers. It can always get better. And one thing you'd notice if you go there, whether it's 50 or 500 or 2,000 people there, it's a loud environment. And volleyball is very much a momentum game. So if you can get the crowd in it, be it small or large, it helps a lot. And we like playing at home.
You guys have a bunch of games coming up this month. I believe you're playing on the 4th of October, the 16th, the 18th, and the 25th. So there's lots of opportunities for Harding students to come and check out the volleyball team. Coach, what made you want to get into coaching volleyball?
Well, I really want to be involved in the lives of kids, and sports have always been my life. So I went to college with the idea of being in some kind of education, being an educator and coaching if possible, be with sports. Met my wife, who was a college volleyball player, so that's how I got into the game. Coming out of college, I took a job as a high school coach, and volleyball is one of those things, and it's something I was able to have success with, and I learned a lot and kind of grew to know the game more and more each year. And everywhere I've been fortunate to have good athletes, and they kind of helped bring me to the level I'm at now. And now it's been a big part of my life. It's not something I planned on, it's more something I kind of stepped into.
I guess your stepping into didn't turn out so badly. As I said, the team's been very successful this year. Now, admittedly, I don't know a whole lot about the game of volleyball, and I don't think that I'm the only person who can say that. What is a dig?
A dig is any defensive play where a player has to make an aggressive play to keep the ball in play. Typically, the other team offensively attacks the ball, tries to put the ball down and in the volley somewhat aggressively. And a dig is just the opposite. Defensively, we keep it in play. And again, I stress defense, and that's one of those stats where we're really shooting for, and that's probably where we excel more than anything compared to our conference opponents is digs.
Okay. Now, there's a couple other terms that I'm kind of cloudy on. What's a kill?
A kill is just what it does, is it ends the volley.
Okay.
Usually it's aggressive, but it can be something off speed or surprising. But a kill is anything where a player attacks the ball, and as a result of their attack, they end the volley, and they get credit for the kill.
How's that different from like a spike, or is a spike a type of kill?
A spike is the same thing.
Okay.
Spike is just slang, and statistically they use the term kill.
Okay. So, all right. Well, you have it here from the teacher and coach, Coach Gibney of the Lady Bison's volleyball team. Please come out to the games at the Rhodes. The ladies would love to see you there. We'll be back with the rest of the show after these messages.
Imagine what it feels like to be a hero every day. You can make a difference in the Coast Guard. Jobs that matter. Imagine what it feels like.
Join the Coast Guard or the Coast Guard Reserve. Stop drugs. Save lives. Protect the environment. Call toll-free 1-877-NOW-USCG.
Coast Guard. Jobs that matter.
Now with Rant down the line, the Rant's one and only switch hitter, our favorite switch hitter, Scott Smith. Scott?
Is that why when you were in San Francisco, I heard your nickname was the San Francisco Treat? Yummy.
Ding, ding.
Anyways, I'm Scott Smith, that's right. And heading off our news around sports, Barry Bonds surpasses McGuire for the most home runs in the season. Bonds finished his record-breaking season with 73 dongs. The one person I really feel bad for in all this is Sammy Sosa. Sammy finished in second place with 64. And as you all may recall, he also finished in second place in 1998 when McGuire was chasing the record. Sammy's like the Robin to Batman. He's the Chong to Cheech, the Ed to Johnny. He's the Garfunkel to Simon. He's not the one out there breaking the actual records, but I say he just doesn't have the inspiration. He needs to feel inspired. So, Sammy, listen, there's nothing wrong with a little behind the scenes, jump out of the bush and smash the competition shins in with the Louisville Slugger kind of action. Tanya Harding did it. The obvious moral of the story still remains, home runs don't equal playoffs. And in the NFL, Detroit quarterback Ty Detmer made an impressive showing a few weeks ago for the Lions, shelling out 7, that is right, 7 interceptions in a much-deserved loss to the Browns. Detroit is my team and all, but, I mean, what are you thinking? The likes of Scott Mitchell look quite appealing for the Lions at this point. Actually, little Johnny, the bedridden stump boy, looks quite appealing as well. Speaking of pathetic quarterbacks, Jeff George of the Washington Redskins has been doubted once again by football fans and housewives all across our great nation as being able to get the job done at QB for the Redskins. As quoted by one of George's former coaches, he states, he's a traveling computer virus who gets into different laptops. It's good to see a former coach having faith in Jeff's abilities. He's been with 5 different franchises in his illustrious career thus far, the most suitable of which is yet to come. McDonald's. Don't settle down in Washington, Jeff. It's not going to be too long. And in the world of fishing, Dick Gillis of Chelmsford, Maine, caught an 11.7-pound northern pike. When asked to comment on his accomplishment, Dick said, "I like fishy." Great job, Dick. We're all proud of you. And now on to more exciting sports news. Steve, I said more exciting sports news. In college football, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish are off to their worst start in the history of their football program with 1-3. When asked to comment, Davey stated, "We look like a poorly coached football team. That's hard for me to swallow and hard for me to say, but that's what I see." Apparently, when giving the interview, Davey forgot that he was the coach. After the interview, he tried to convince reporters that he was just kidding when they realized that what he had just said. Coach Davey, don't worry, there's all sorts of employment opportunities after coaching football for Notre Dame. You and Jeff could be co-workers. Hey. And finally, Tiger Woods has come out with a book entitled How I Play Golf. What has the world come to when people actually go out and buy this book? Do you actually think that there's a secret that he knows that nobody else in the world knows, and somehow by obtaining this secret, you'll be able to play like Tiger? Let's get real, folks. He's a gifted athlete who spent his entire life breathing and eating golf. What's next? Is Roger Clemens going to come out with a book called How I Throw 100-mile-an-hour Fastballs? Or even better, Ty Detmer's new book, How I Throw 7 Interceptions in One Game and Still Manage to Keep My Job. That's all for Rant Down the Line. Stay tuned. Sports IQ's next.
Stop drugs, save lives, protect the environment in the Coast Guard.
The Coast Guard, jobs that matter.
The Rant does not operate within the cave. We want to hear what our fans and our viewers think. Please email us at therant16@hotmail.com. You see it on the bottom of your screen, and so I won't spell it for you, but email us. We want to know what you think, how you feel about the show, what we can improve, what do you think was funny. So just hit us up on that email. We will respond. Now, the next segment is Sports IQ with Josh Davidson. This week we find out what exactly a double fault is.
Stop drugs, save lives, protect the environment in the Coast Guard.
The Coast Guard, jobs that matter.
And welcome back to The Rant, here in our studio with TV16's very own Elisa Wright. You can catch her on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5 o'clock. Sports IQ section of our show right now. Elisa, the question for you today, and the question that we've asked some of your fellow students is, what is a double fault? Now, before you answer, let's find out what some of your fellow peers had to say.
Okay. What is a double fault?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Something to do with football, I'm sure. Again.
Football? Like, what do you think it has to do with football?
I don't know. I'm sure it has something to do with like touching someone when you're not supposed to. Maybe it doesn't have to do with football.
Touching someone when you're not supposed to. Well,
like pushing them or something.
Pushing them.
Know.
Okay. And what is a double fault?
A double fault is a tennis term.
Yeah. What does it have to do with tennis?
When it goes on that little
Line?
lane that's out of the court. Maybe?
Oh, okay. So like the little lane on the two sides of the court? Okay.
Maybe.
All right. Close. And what is a double fault?
Double fault. I don't know.
Maybe a guess?
When you have two faults.
Two faults?
Two faults.
Like what sport do you think it deals
Faults. Football?
Football? Okay, and what would a fault be in football?
Like a fumble or something.
Okay, so if you fumble twice in a row, that's a double fault. Okay, what is a double fault?
Ooh, okay. Not too sure about this one, but
Maybe just a guess.
yeah. I don't know. Making a mistake twice in one game.
Making a mistake twice in one game? What kind of what kind of sport do you think it deals with?
That could be anything.
Any sport, if you make a mistake? Sure. Okay, so like in football, if you throw 2 interceptions or fumble it twice, that's a double fault?
That sounds good to me.
Sounds good?
Why not?
All right, we'll take it. Okay, what is a double fault?
Oh my gosh. A what?
A double fault. Just give me a good guess if you don't know. What sport does it have to do with?
I have no idea. I've never heard of it.
Tennis? Tennis? Okay, good. That's right. That's right. Now, what do you think it is in tennis?
Like when you're serving and it's out both times.
Okay, that's exactly right. Good job.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
what I was thinking, but I didn't
Yeah,
think it was right.
you seemed real confident about that.
I didn't want to say it because I was like, well, I play tennis, so, but I never heard it called that.
You played tennis and never heard it called that. Okay. All right. What is a double fault?
A double fault?
Yeah.
A double fault?
A double fault.
That's when it's your fault twice.
What sport do you think it has to do with?
Golf?
Golf? Okay, so like, what in golf?
Maybe if you hit the ball, mess up, and then you hit it again.
Got a little hip thing.
Well, you know, this is Hardy. I shouldn't be doing that.
All right, so golf, if you hit the ball, mess up, and then hit it again.
Yeah.
All right, all right. Okay, what is a double fault?
Double fault. That's like in tennis, where
Okay.
you go, it's 2 faults.
Well, what's a fault then?
A fault, like, when it's out of bounds.
Out of
Maybe when the ball goes on the green part, like on the outside of the grass.
Isn't the whole course green?
Maybe.
Okay.
It's on the outside of the alleyway,
The alleyway. What exactly is the alleyway?
not on the court.
Not on the court. Okay. What is a double fault?
Ooh, that's in tennis.
Okay, what's that have to do with tennis?
That's when you throw your racket at the dude and then you punch the dude that calls it.
When you throw the racket at the dude and you punch the dude that calls it. Okay, and that would be a double fault. So if you hit someone else, would that be a triple fault?
No, they applause for that.
They applaud for that.
They
Why
applaud,
did
they applaud for that.
applaud for that? Okay, they applaud for you fighting and.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a violent sport.
Extreme tennis here on the Rant. And what is a double fault?
Ooh.
Maybe a guess?
Double fault. And you make the same mistake twice.
Same. What sport do you think it has to do with?
Soccer.
Okay, in soccer, when you make the same mistake twice, like what?
I don't play soccer. I don't have that at my school.
You don't have that at your school?
No, soccer. When you kick someone twice in a row.
All right, what is a double fault?
A double fault is when it's part of tennis. When you serve the ball twice and you
Serve the ball twice
and you hit it out.
you hit
I'm
it
not
out.
really a tennis player.
What do you mean hit it out?
I am not a tennis player. My roommate plays tennis. That's how I know
all
that
right,
part.
so we should call her because you don't know.
Yes.
All right.
All right. Well, those were some interesting answers. Do you know what a double fault is, Elisa?
Well, Josh, I'm pretty sure it's in tennis when the server hits the ball into the net twice in a row.
That's exactly right. You got it dead on. And I believe you're our first correct answer of the year. So
All right.
congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for being here. If you'd like to be here, just email us at therant16@hotmail.com, right on the bottom of your screen, and we'll gladly invite you into our studio, and you can sit down with me and answer a sports IQ question. Don't go away. The Rant will be right back after this.
Stop drugs, save lives, protect the environment in the Coast Guard.
The Coast Guard, jobs that matter.
We have a new portion of the show called the 2-minute warning here in our second season, and it puts a little bit of pressure on us here on the desk. Now, we make fun of a lot of things on this show. Here's your opportunity to make fun of us a little bit. We have a topic which we pick ourselves, each individually having a topic, and we have 30 seconds exactly to spout off about that topic. If we don't fill the 30 seconds, we just get to stare goofily at the camera. If we take too much of our time, it's going to switch off of us and go to the next person. Now, this is the first time we do this on the show, and remember, it's a 2-minute warning, so if you like it, you love it, you hate it, you don't want us to ever do it again, email us. We already told you the email. We'll get that up there for you later on in the show. But just tell us how you think. Scott, you're first.
2-minute warning, Al. Well, I got a warning. The Bisons are back, baby. They are taking on Valdosta, and I can already hear the stampede of the footprints of the Bisons in the out in the distance there. The Bisons are going to Valdosta. They're going to take on Valdosta, who crushed Delta State this last weekend, 70-12 Delta State, which was number 2 in the nation, right behind North Dakota State. But I'm predicting the upset right here. The Bisons are going to whoop up on Valdosta. You heard it right here, Scott Smith.
Well, I'm going to pop off my 2-minute drill, similar to how the buttons on Brad's suit are about to pop off. I want to talk about NBA rules and how they're changing this season. There are a lot of changes going on. Illegal defense guidelines will be eliminated. The teams have to get the ball past midcourt in 8 seconds instead of 10 in previous seasons. Also, brief contact is allowed in the paint. So what this does, this changes a lot for the NBA because you can play zone. Hey, maybe Utah has a chance of winning. They've got the short shorts and all.
7,648. What does that number mean? No. Here at Harding, that is not the number of times somebody's gone forward after Jimmy Allen's sermons. It is the number of fans that averaged attendance at Montreal Expo games this year. 7,648. Yes, that's right. That's worse than 10 minor league franchises. The Memphis Redbirds doubled that attendance mark for the season. Montreal, does anybody go to the games?
The Cowboys are well on their way to beating Montreal with the lack of fans. America's team is trying to play like America's landfill. And the reason why? Because Jerry Jones, the owner, is doing his best to sabotage the team. He drafts Quincy Carter, who is an unproven college quarterback with mobility, yes. With the ability to play, no. Anthony Wright stepped into the game. He's the one leading the offense. He's the one getting the team to move down the field. He should be the starter. Quincy Carter, go home. That is your 2-minute drill. Now, we did all right for the first time.
2-minute warning?
2-minute warning, excuse me. Too much ESPN. Too much ESPN. It's a 2-minute warning. My apologies to Kenny Mayne. Now, if you like that segment, or if you like any of the segments on the show, please email us. We want to know what you think. It's the rant16@hotmail.com. You see it on your screen. Show us some love.
Holla at us.
Holla. Hootie. As we always do on the show, we end with highlights. So stay tuned next week when we'll talk to Jemai Holden, formerly of the Harding Bison's football team.
Know what time it is. Radio. Know who this is.